I ended up making 25k a month through my marketing agency, all at the age of 20. So let me just introduce myself. So I'm Daniel, I'm from Australia, and I actually ended up making 25k a month through my marketing agency when I first started, because all I needed to do was like, okay, cool. Let me just backtrack everything that I do and actually understand how I actually ended up doing it. So I'll introduce myself. I'll actually tell you a bit more about me before I just, go into it. So pretty much what I did. So all throughout school, I've always been like that sort of kid who's just never really fitted in. So I was more so like the shy, the introverted sort of kid, but it was always very, very sporty and always very good at convincing people and getting my own way in that sort of regard. So I've always been able to speak and persuade people in a way that allows me to be like, okay, cool. If I want this outcome, how can I phrase it so then I can then get this outcome to happen? So I've always been very, very good at that sort of stuff and persuasion. And obviously you can tell within my videos, within my marketing clients, and obviously within people who I talk to. Like, I've already got another 5 more businesses on my to follow up list in regards to my marketing agency. So then that's just going to basically, obviously increase revenue and increase that sort of stuff. And I reckon it's going to be easy to convert them. But as I said, let me just backtrack. So back in, when was it? Pretty much back in 2016, 2017. This all has like very, very importance because this is all to do with my character development. So I was like one of the shy, introverted, sort of nerdy sort of kids who's always been like good at math and good at being able to pretty much get what I want in that sort of persuasion way, because I understood people, I was just one of those sorts of people who was like a background character who could see and feel how everyone like felt, sort of thing. So I was like very, very good at like, you know what I mean. I was just very good at basically standing back, seeing what's going on and abstracting out what was going on, how they're feeling and how I could possibly move the puzzle pieces from A to B. So yeah, so pretty much back in high school, like I said, I was that nerdy, shy, introverted kid. I was a kid that was more so like, the kid that always wanted like the hottest chicks in school. That was me. I tried, didn't work out. So then I tried for another one, and I tried, didn't work out. And I'm like, okay, cool. There's something that I'm lacking here. There's something that I do not have, like going on, or something that I'm like lacking, which is like solving this not to happen. Obviously, during that time, I had my first heartbreak. It was the best thing to ever happen to me, because as a man, you learn a lot. Especially, my sort of opinion is, the more and more difficult your life is, the better it is. The more and more heartbreaks you have early on, the more and more lessons you get to learn, the more and more stuff you get to extract from that and be like, okay, cool. Life is a game of chess. What did I do right? What did I do wrong? My biggest problem was back then was that I was so needy. I was from a mindset of like desperation. I was probably in the same position you are now in regards to wanting to get money, wanting to get more clients, wanting to actually get that dream lifestyle that you wanted to have. So yeah, I completely understand where you guys come from. So pretty much I was like that sort of shy, introverted, nerdy kid. I was always very good at sport. So pretty much after that, I wanted to become an Olympic athlete and be like, obviously, you know what you're like when you get your heart broken. You want to be like, okay, cool. How can I prove myself to the world? How can I prove myself to myself that I am in a better position? So then I'm like, okay, cool. So then I gain more status. So pretty much I spent the next 2 to 3 years focusing on becoming an Olympic rower, which was fucking like, which was a lot of discipline, a lot of training. I had no focus on girls, because from what I learned is basically you just got to focus on your craft. You got to focus on what you're good at. You got to focus on the systems, the health, blah, blah, blah. Like every single important factor was wrong, like the technique, because like, as I said, like what I'm saying now, like once you get one thing that changes, like even just slightly within your life, it also has an effect that causes every single area of your life to change. So let's just say I go to the gym more. That means one area of my life is also lacking more because I'm going to the gym, or because I'm going to the gym more, I'm getting more tired. My muscles need more, need more energy. It's always a cause and effect. It's a balancing act pretty much. So this was the important first thing that it taught me, as well as on top of that, it taught me the importance of resilience. So the importance of resilience, especially when it comes to business, and especially when it comes with starting your first business, is that you got to come from a mindset of, okay, cool, I'm not going to tap out. I need to do so much volume that it looks absolutely ridiculous from the outside world. Because I mean, that's what I was doing when I was doing sport. I was training between 3 to 5 times a day, between cardio, rowing, gym, and other sports, because I was also playing soccer, I was playing rugby, I was doing all that sort of stuff at school. And I'm like, okay, cool, this is how I can get better and better and better, because I'm like, okay, wouldn't it be better if I actually enjoy the activity than basically me just being mind-boggling, you know, being in that numb sort of mode when I'm actually doing the task. It's like me recording the video, it's like I enjoy doing this because then I get to help you guys and give you guys a bit of insight and then help you move along your journey. And even as like any of you guys sort of relate to me, it's like, you know, you can possibly be like, okay, cool, I was in this sort of position, this is what he was in as well, and then this is what he solved, and this is what he did to help him move forward more and more and more. So then from there, I'm like, okay, cool. Because I've always been, obviously, as you know, I've always been interested in money. I've always been interested in that. And I'm like, well, if I'm the best rower in the world, I only get paid $1 million a year. Look at how much Usain Bolt gets paid for being the best runner in the world. It's like, why would I want to be the best rower in the world? Because I'm like, yes, it's cool, but not too many people actually know who I am. It doesn't necessarily like pay the bills. It doesn't, you know, it only gets you so far. Like I was like, okay, cool. Because this was back in my 16-year-old brain. I'm like, okay, cool. $1 million doesn't get too much. And then I got introduced to Suits. So Suits was where, obviously you guys have seen the show, so you guys know Harvey Specter, what he's like. And I'm like, okay, that's something that I actually want to be like, because I've seen the corporate banking world. I've seen the whole corporate world. I'm like, wouldn't it make more sense to me like be like a partner in the law firm? And that's when the entrepreneurial edge actually started to open up, because I'm like, okay, why don't I become a partner in a business? I get saves, I make moves, and then I can end up like, you know, moving stuff into a better and better position within the business. So that's sort of what I was thinking. I'm like, okay, cool. So I want to become a absolute killer closer who will do this, this, and this. And eventually I do want to move to the States. I do want to study here. I do want to do that. And that was my goal and dream for the longest time. Then from there, I did that, and I'm like, because, you know, around about, this was in 2018. So, you know, when 2019, 2020 happened, how we had the whole world locked down and all that sort of stuff, all that fun sort of stuff happened. Yeah, that happened, and that completely changed my life. So I actually got introduced to this guy called Jason Capital. So Jason Capital was a copywriting, like, you know, did copywriting for businesses and all this sort of stuff. And I'm like, if there's a way I can make, if I can seriously make like 3 to 5 grand from just typing words on a keyboard than having to be on the middle of mergers, deals, and all that sort of stuff, wouldn't it make more sense? And I'm like, okay, that's pretty sick. So if I can end up, you know, spending so many hours a day only basically typing words to a screen, setting up to clients, and essentially being the one who controls where the money comes in and money comes out, it's like, wouldn't that make more sense? And I'm like, cool. Okay, so that makes more sense for me to do that than me spending the next 7 years of my life, or how, I don't even know, like 4 or 5 years of my life studying to become a lawyer. Because, like, also, just because it's me, I've always been very much into the corporate cases. So, like, no matter what happens, I like I like playing with the A players. I like playing with the big companies, competing against each other, wanting to get certain, like, rights or shares and all this sort of stuff. So I'm like, okay, cool. If I can end up working for them and actually controlling their marketing, controlling their sales, that'd be even better, because I'm technically playing a piece, not just another night that they have to more so dictate what I can and can't do. But also, obviously, given Harvey's edge, his edge was being able to, you know, be able to do what he does and basically being his own entity, because he's like seriously, if someone was in his position, if someone was in his position, he'd be making like, what, $5 to $10 million a year. So yeah, I'm like, okay, cool. Yeah, obviously, how can I get there? And I'm like, okay, so if I can sell this at $5,000 a pop, okay. So if I can seriously type words and sell them at $5,000 per, you know, amount of copywriting, that would be absolutely awesome. And I'm like, okay, cool. Why can't I end up doing this? And that's one of the first introductions I got to marketing. And for any of you guys who want to help with starting your marketing agency, I can coach you. It's a one-on-one thing, not a one-size-fits-all. But yeah, I don't really care. Just book a call if you want. But yeah, whatever. But yeah, moving on. So that was my first introduction to marketing. Then I got introduced to Iman Gadzhi after that. This was all through TikTok during when I was meant to do legal and all this sort of stuff. And I'm like, okay, well, I got introduced to Iman Gadzhi. I got introduced to all these people who were making boatloads of money. And I'm like, okay, well, I thought the maximum paycheck in Australia was like 120K a year, which is pennies, because it's like, cool. If you seriously want to basically give a third of your money to the government, you want to basically have to pay, give up your whole life every single year just to get paid 120K a year. It's like, it's not worth it. It is not worth it at all. So it's like, cool. If I'm better off running a business, even though it's got more stress, more headaches and everything, obviously there's ways to reduce that by hiring the right people, having the right systems and all that sort of stuff. Like, just understanding management skills and what you need to have. It's like, well, if I can get around it like that, it's like, it makes more sense for me to do that than to just work in a corporate job or only do like this and this. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. And that's obviously when Iman Gadzhi's like, oh, you can charge like super high ticket for this and this. And I'm like, that's pretty sweet. And then I'm like, I wasn't even aware that marketing was an actual high ticket thing, because this is when I'm like, okay, this is when my little entrepreneurial brain actually started to actually work. And I'm like, the possibilities of what the world actually has. This is when I actually first started to ask the teachers, hey, do you run a business? How do you do this? How do you do that? And obviously I got a lot of no's, because while they'd be telling to the student who's in one of their either physics, legal or whatever class I was in, and I'm like, if I can make $200 a week as a 16-year-old doing this, imagine how much more money I can make later on once I actually master the skill. And obviously I thought $200 a week was a lot at the time. It really isn't, just because it's like, do you know how far $200 will get in this day and age? It's like, registration for your car isn't even that much. Registration for basic amenities. I mean, food costs you like, what, $200-300 a week, maybe more, maybe less. And it's like, cool. So it's like, okay, what can I do from here? So I'm like, okay, so that didn't work. Then from there, I was like, okay, I got more and more in depth in the real estate side, because I was like, okay, cool. What's one of the best ways to actually make a load of money online? Well, not like online, but make a load of money through business. And I'm like, actually having assets, because what we got taught during business school was, and also accounting, is that you're better off having assets, so then you can get your net worth to go up. And I'm like, okay, cool. So then I'm better off owning assets, better off moving stuff forward more and more and more, and then be able to, slowly grow my net worth at like 7% per year, which I would highly not recommend doing unless you've got a ton of cash. But obviously you would not be watching this video if you were in that position. So I'm like, that's out of the picture, because I've got to borrow, I've got to deal with this, I've got to deal with that. And I'm like, cool, how about I do this? How about I do it from a state of where I want to become a real estate agent? So then I'm like, cool, let me then learn sales. And also, from you guys know from one of my previous videos, I've been doing sales a fair bit at this time. I was doing DM setting and all that sort of stuff. And I'm like, okay, what's a sweet way that I can try and make more money? Because I didn't realize that sales had the biggest, abundance, or like the biggest, is like the best job to have. And I'm like, because you can be making crazy money for these businesses, you get paid a cut. And I'm like, okay, cool, sales is probably the way to go. And then I chatted with the real estate agent, and he's like, I don't think sales is for you just yet. I think you're better off to learn how to trade, how to invest, and do all that sort of stuff. So then from there, I integrated the mechanics that I learned from real estate investing and from understanding sales basics, because he did teach me, and he's like, okay, this is what you're like, this is like your personality type, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, okay, that's pretty sweet. Then if I can do that, then what's my possibility of gaining more and more money? And I'm like, okay, that's pretty awesome. So I actually ended up starting trading. I remember if you guys remember, do you guys remember the day that Netflix went down? So I actually made probably about $5,000 off that day. And then because I didn't know what the difference was between buying and shorting, I was meant to sell the stock, and I accidentally bought instead of shorted Netflix and lost their whole portfolio. I mean, it's a good lesson to learn on regards to basics of trading and basics of doing that. But I also studied that during legal, because I'm like, wouldn't it make more sense to play with this and then, make something like maybe 100, 200, 300 bucks a day than me sitting in school making nothing, or me actually learning and acquiring the importance of market psychology. And then this is all just applied all throughout. This has been very, very useful, because two of the most important emotions with people are fear and greed. People will not make a decision if they're in a state of fear. People will only make a decision if they're in a state of greed and will want to move forward because they don't know that they can have a gain. It's the basics of anything. It's the exact same way in marketing. But so then I went from there. I learned that during my little trading session. I'm like, cool, how can I then apply this later on? So obviously I got my first job with the consultant. I also got my job doing low ticket sales. It's taught me more and more about sales, and also during the consultant, I was doing sales and the marketing for him, because I'm like, that's the best way to learn it. And I'm like, cool, what is one way I can then do this, set out on my own, gain more money, and also, get my life from being a kid who didn't have any degree, was told by actually a few teachers, I can't, you're better off getting a degree, you're better off doing this, you're better off doing that. Isn't it better off that you go to uni? And I'm like, yeah, no, uni's a scam, blah, 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 all that sort of stuff. And I started working for that consultant. And then on top of that, I used to do support work. So I used to look after people with disabilities and help them with their daily life. So I ended up making my first 15K during the start of January of 24. And then from there, I was like, no, I'm done. 15K at $20 an hour is not worth it. It is so not worth it, because it's like, I was working 21 hours a day just to hit that 15K, and it's like, bro, I've just gave you my whole life, and it's like, you guys don't even care, because it's like, here we go again. But yeah, pretty much from there, I then ended up basically quitting that job, doing low ticket sales, and then just the consulting sales side. And I'm like, what else is there from here? So I also ended up trying to do marketing, because during that time I was doing affiliate marketing, doing a bit of digital drop shipping and all that sort of stuff. And also basically had like a sales job as well. Like I worked for an e-commerce agency during that time doing sales, and I'm like, sick, okay, let me just give this a shot. Let me do this on my own. It was probably the most rewarding experience of my life, because you guys think you guys obviously hate your job. You guys don't want to be in your job for any longer. So you're like, okay, cool. Why don't I start up my own agency? Because your own agency is like the best multiplier. Like the reason why I create these videos is because A, gives more notice of my agency, and B, it can possibly help someone move them forward. But there's a bit more to the story. This is when it gets up to the good part. During that time, I ended up losing 70K during that time, all through crypto. I don't need to basically budget. I took out 50K worth of loans, spent 20K of my own cash, and I'm like, well, what am I meant to do now? So pretty much from there, I just locked in. I hired a few more coaches, a few more mentors who actually helped me to move forward more and more and more. So I've currently have had 3 sales coaches. I've had 3 marketing coaches. I've had multiple other coaches. I've probably spent about another 50K on coaches, which which has been like the best investment I can have, because then they just basically was like, okay, cool. Instead of me having to spend like 250 hours, basically trial and error, just basically getting my throat kicked in every single day when I'm doing this, this, and this, I ended up doing it I ended up basically getting that time shortcutted, and the only thing I had to pay was money, which is like, how much do you value your time? Would you rather pay someone like what, £10,000 to get there, or would you rather spend 2 years of your life trying to figure it out? I would rather spend £10,000 to figure out what I had to do, how to do it, and how I actually had to create a high income skill. Like, as I said, I learned sales properly, I learned marketing properly, I learned emails, I learned copy, I learned content, I learned how to brand myself, I learned direct response and all this other type of marketing. And I'm like, cool, let me now actually apply it. So then I just basically picked up the phone, started doing content, and yeah, ended up making 25k a month, either A, through one of my videos, B, through, obviously just me working as well. Because the best tip I can give you is that you're better off working a job as well as so you're better off working a job as well as running a business, because you still need cash to come in, and in case anything does happen with your business, you can then still just continually support and provide for that. Plus also, like a lot of you guys either have a wife or family or kids, and it's probably the best way, because then they don't miss out. You then just keep on building up the long-term success, because the more and more hours you put into something, it has to eventually pay you back. Business is the game of delayed gratification. Like, the reason why I've become so successful is because I spent so much time, so much energy, so much money, so much effort into essentially forcing an outcome that I need to happen. So yeah, that's pretty much what happened with me. And also, as I said, during that time, when I lost about 70k, I also learned a lot about market psychology and all that sort of stuff. And it's like, well, this has still been very, very important. Like, I've probably paid $200,000 worth of lessons at the age of 20. At the age of 20. So what does that tell you? What does that tell you in your current position? What do you need to do now? What do you need to do to then attack it? But yeah, as I said, if you want, book a call, and yeah, whatever. But yeah, that's pretty much that's it from me. And also, watch this video, should be over this side, to see how I actually became a billionaire at the age of 20.